Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Handcast. Thanks for coming back. It means a lot. I can only assume that some of you watched the first one and enjoyed it enough to come and watch it again. If you are starting here, can I suggest maybe that you go back and give the first one a go? It will really help fill out the story and how Change of Plan came about. But obviously, if this is your favourite song and it's where you want to start, by all means, steam ahead. In this episode, we discuss if anyone actually likes Scum Triumphant. We get into when we decided to actually change our sound to something you're much more familiar with today. We get into how we almost had a horn section and how Robin very begrudgingly took the centre stage point, which you're also familiar with him being in. We also get into how we would have possibly written the song quite differently today by the way we write songs now. And did we rip off Goldfinger is a question that's asked. Something that Robin has highlighted to me only recently. We discuss our love for a band called Harijan, whose singer Mikey inspired a few lines in this song, a band that I think really need bigging up any opportunity given. But while we have you, please do the things, do the liking, do the subscribing and all that kind of nonsense. It really does help. If you're enjoying this, please share it with people who you think might do, because the better it goes down, the more it's consumed, the more we'll do it. And we do have a lot of really interesting plans for this year with this kind of stuff. But without further ado, we're going to get into this and let's discuss Scum Triumphant. So here we go. So I just found out the hard way, Robin.
Yep.
That that camera, that one there,
Hello.
only records for 27 minutes. So we lost approximately 20 minutes, 12, 30, 15 minutes of me and my beautiful face talking to you about those songs.
Did we get all of me?
Got all of you, Robin.
It's fine then.
That's what people are here for.
Tragedy. Exactly,
So, yeah, we've had a nice little revisit there. Mm-hmm. Last week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Same hat.
Same freezing fucking room.
Same practice ridge.
Yeah, so Scum Triumphant has become an anthem of ours, I'd say. Mm-hmm. It's weird because Scum Triumphant is one of our biggest songs, but people don't actually request it.
They're sick of it. That's why, Joe.
we are
sick to death of it. God, not this one again.
But people always ask for Play Some Ska
and
other songs.
Mm-hmm.
But like it just like kind of strikes me that Scum Triumphant does get played at every goddamn gig.
I think people forget that it exists until we do. And they're like, "Oh, this is a random answer, isn't it?" Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
There you go. So what we're saying is it's forgettable. That's what we've established there. Good tune, very forgettable.
Very forgettable.
Yep.
So, talk to me about writing this then. I don't remember writing this.
So weirdly, I was having a walk on the moors one day at the risk of sounding like I'm from Yorkshire. Because I used to go and like walking on Brown Moor above my folks' house. I was walking around and I thought I was having my usual flutter of random, my smorgasbord of random thoughts. And for some reason, I was just like, the phrase Scum Triumphant would be a great band name. And if Random Hand ever falls apart, I might start a better Skacore band with a proper horn section, like I always wanted, and call the band Scum Triumphant.
Wait a second, did you always want a horn section?
Yes, ideally. I sort of came to terms with just being on me Todd and not having any friends. But
what about us?
I can't like. You guys?
I remember we tried out a saxophone player, didn't we?
Way
Jenny.
back in the day. Jenny, yeah. Way back in the day. But I've always looked enviously upon horn players playing with other horns.
Because my memory is completely different. My memory is that there was a period where I suggested it. Like, how about we get like a backing horn section? So you would still be front and centre, but we have like a horn section off to the side. And you were not into it.
That might have been after we'd established ourselves.
Oh yeah, it almost definitely was. I feel like I still feel like it was before we made the first album.
It might well have been,
but
because that was the. I mean, we're getting off track here. If you're all right to do a bit off track, but I remember there was a little insight into the start of Random Hand. Originally, I was not the lead singer. way back in the day, originally the vocals were the lead vocals was split pretty evenly across Matt and Joe and myself.
Yeah.
And then there was and that's when we were doing a lot of poppier sounding stuff as well.
Yeah.
Which you probably wouldn't recognise as sounding like Random Hand. Very different affair. But we had a few like minor key, edgier kind of things. But there was a point where we made a very conscious decision where we said we're going to do the harder, the minor key stuff, the harder stuff, the edgier stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
stuff.
It wasn't a full group consensus.
It may not have been a full group consensus.
I remember me and you fully being on board with it.
No.
I'm sure Dimmers was as well, but Matt definitely wasn't.
Yeah, but possibly. I don't specifically
feel like
remember that.
I remember a specifically difficult evening at Dimmer's house.
Right.
And me and you walking out of the house and walking and talking about it, about how we were going to change the sound.
Right.
And then we kind of went back and had a big chat about it.
Okay. I could well be. Well, I remember.
It's weird because I now live in the house next door to that, but I remember I remember me and you walking up the back passage.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
And having a proper chat about how we could, even make stuff that already existed harder if we needed to. But we didn't ever go back and rewrite, but there was that suggestion at one point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like I said, I remember that sort of very distinct conscious decision turning point to do that. And I think it was within that same discussion where I sort of gave the clause of like, okay, but if we're doing that and I'm going to be stood in the middle of the stage, can I effectively take the lead vocal duties? Because I'd feel more comfortable doing that. I think that was sort of part of the
thing is, the way I remember it is the first gig I was in the centre, the second gig Matt was in the centre, the third gig you were in the centre, and then we never changed.
Right.
Because it worked.
Was the plan just to constantly rotate the band?
Genuinely, I think that was the conversation.
All right, okay.
Because we were being like that.
Yeah.
And I think we were going to keep it like that. And I think me and Matt knew that, because in Nosebone, the band that me and Robin were in before Random Hand, which was a 3-piece, and Robin played drums. What happened was we covered Sex Pistols, didn't we, for a song, and Dimmers got up and played that with us. So
No Feelings.
We suddenly became a 4-piece in that other band.
Yeah.
And you sang, and something wild happened, and you acted like a frontman. Do you know what I mean? Like, in a way that none of us were, the way that no one in the local scene was. You took to the stage.
Was a showboating prick.
But at no point did anyone feel like that. You just, you took your top off and screamed No Feelings and proper took over the room, and it was like, oh right. And so that was in my head when we started Random Hands, right. and I know me and Matt were both on board with that, but you weren't on board with it.
No,
so
probably
we tricked
not.
You. And I remember the first gig you were in the centre was at the Cockpit. What was the Rocket?
Was I not in the centre at the Vic then?
Or maybe you were. Maybe that was the first time it happened.
Right.
No, maybe you were. Maybe it was the second gig. Maybe Matt never did a centre point.
Right. But in Graham's basement, you were in the...
I was in the centre,
Oh. No, yeah, that does make sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so either way, what happened, as soon as you were in the centre, we went, that was quite good, let's keep that there. And you begrudgingly took that.
Begrudgingly.
I think another big reason why we edged it up was because we all... Well, did you see Skin Dread with me? Or was it just me that had seen Skin Dread?
Which venue?
At the Rio's the first time.
No.
Right. So I saw Skin Dread.
Yeah.
Found out Skin Dread were playing at the 1 in 12 club in Bradford and got us on that gig to open. And we didn't have a lot of heavy songs then. And I think that's when the conversation started, and that's when we wrote, Where's Your Argument?
Okay, yeah.
Because we already had FUPS, Fuck You and Your Paper Shit.
Yep.
But yeah, we wrote Where's Your Argument and a couple more heavy ones. So we didn't sound like Total Wet Blankets at the Skin Dread gig. And I think that was a pivotal moment for kind of, a catalyst for change as well.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there was that very distinctive kind of, How did we get onto this? How did we get onto the...
We were talking about Scum Triumphant, about you writing it.
I thought it would be a good band name.
Yeah, okay.
Other horns.
Oh, right.
Horn sections, other bands. But yeah, I remember thinking it would be a good band name. I liked the sentiment of the phrase, which was basically the idea was that it's kind of, you know, it's okay to be not good at things and rough around the edges and not have your life in order and be, you know, and be a bit of a mess and revel in that a little bit and sort of celebrate it a bit. That's fine, you know what I mean? I think, you know, we were sort of that mentality mid to late teens, as I'm sure a lot of people were, because we, you know, I mean, we're the sort of, we're the jackass era, aren't we? You know what I mean? Where you sort of, you know, you celebrate life by
jackass generation.
The jackass generation, you know what I mean? Where you celebrate being alive by getting in a shopping trolley and pushing yourself into a hedge and having no prospects, and that was kind of, you know, that was
a dead end town.
Yeah, in a dead end town, that was a thing to be celebrated. So that's kind of the genesis of the phrase, and then the actual song itself, Scum for me sort of marks this, you know, there's so we obviously we all write for the band, and I think we all have, or certainly to start with, over the course of many years or a few albums, we all probably had a few different sort of writing styles that we each had, and one of mine has always been the sort of I've spoken about this before loads. Is the sort of the minor key pseudo-Slavic fast-paced horn line scenario, which I've spent decades trying to perfect. And for me, Scum sort of marks the start of that. Although, interestingly enough, you mentioned Where's Your Argument, which kind of has it, and Cover of the Book had it as well. So it was in existence.
Because I felt like
that.
Scum is the reason why Cover of the Book wasn't on Change of Plan.
It sort of took over from that in a way.
Yeah. And you can hear that.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But I think, I mean, certainly, for a long time, I was writing all the sorts of songs in the same key and everything, you know what I mean? They were sort of pretty much interchangeable. But Scum is obviously the first albumed example of that sort of thing that we do. So
about Wiki Warstutska.
Good Lord.
I only remember that because I spotted the EP versions on my hard drive, and there was there was the live tracks at the end.
Yeah,
and that was in that vein as well.
Yeah, kind of, but yeah, because that was sort of very. Yeah, I guess it was.
These are deep cuts, and you're never hearing them.
Yes, this is old. This is pre stuff. Yeah, this is pre stuff. That doesn't mean anything, does it? This is pre stuff. This is before we did anything. These are songs that before we did anything. But that's the interesting thing with the history of the band is there's got to be like, I mean, there's some debate about this, but I think there must be like 2 or 3 albums worth of stuff prior to
the EP.
The EP, yeah, the first EP. There's got to be
at least 20 songs.
Yeah,
I mean, I think 2 albums might be stretched, but no, you might be right. Yeah,
I remember going through a lot to get to where we were, but Scum, yeah. And I, you know, like I say, it's to me, it's very much in that vein of sort of coming after it would be like, you know, Ferroni and Tales of Intervention and maybe The Cycle is the most recent sort of thing, you know what I mean? And After the Alarm, and so you know what I mean. Those sort of, to me, all those tunes kind of have the same lineage of that style of writing. And Scum was kind of the first example of that. And I remember being sort of very excited about playing around with that sort of staggered opening part. That, you know, da 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 da. For me, that would just seem like a quite interesting, like the sort of staggered nature of the drop down the harmonics as well seemed suitably hooky to me. I thought it would be quite fun to play about with. So sort of, so it was cool to do on that front with the playing about with the horn line in that way. I can't remember if I don't know if it was in relation to Scum, but I remember you saying at one point you were talking about a tradition in folk writing, which is, so folk plays a massive part of Joe's family background.
Yes.
He's from a family of very
I know what you're going to say, but go for
very proficient folk musicians who are highly regarded. And And it's this whole thing about you do a verse, but then you don't go like verse, chorus. You would
almost like a double verse.
Yeah,
yeah.
You'd have separate.
We did that in Scum and DME.
Yes,
and that's where I remember that.
Yeah,
that being a point.
Yeah,
but obviously, it is in Scum as well, isn't it?
So we had the verse, and then you have the little horn break bit.
Yeah,
and then you have like a second part of the verse.
Yeah,
before jumping into the chorus.
It's because a lot of folk songs have 7 or 8 verses and go on for an hour.
Yeah,
and they kind of a lot of them did that. I remember they just for some reason it was mentioned by my mum or my dad or something at some point, and they became aware. I became aware of it when we were structuring songs that might be a good way to get more content in. Which is not, we wouldn't do that now. Now we'd be like, let's get to the chorus as quick as we can, you know. Yeah. And I remember.
Well, we're getting older. We're getting knackered, aren't we? You know, get it over with.
Significantly, Babar said to us, "Don't bore us. Get to the chorus." And Barney Boom was similar as well. After we made Change of Plan, Barney was like, "You need to do short songs."
It's on a similar vein, and I'm sure he won't mind me mentioning it. But the story of Ian Armstrong of Hidden Talent Booking, who was our manager and agent for many years, and did a huge amount to get us to where we are. Like, they put a huge amount of work in for us. But I remember, I tell this story a lot to people, but I remember the very first conversation I had with him was we were playing with Sonic Boom 6.
Yeah.
Was it Northumbria University or something like that?
Yeah.
And we sat backstage, and he was sat opposite me, and it was sort of, it was only 2 people in the room, sort of kind of thing. And I sort of awkwardly nodded at him, as if to say hi, hello, or whatever. And he just, without, no beat or anything, he just went, "You need to write better choruses."
Yeah.
They're not catchy enough. Everyone's going to go home tonight. They're going to be singing Son of Him 6's songs.
Yeah.
No one's going to be singing your songs.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I was like, "Hi, I'm Robin."
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. But I think maybe that was a bit of a conscious thing to kind of go.
Yeah.
Because the trouble, we're talking about songwriting.
Yeah.
So the problem that I had from the start is that, I am not a naturally gifted singer. You could subjectively say that I'm not particularly good at. I've become better over time with confidence, but I've never been, all the components of what make a good singer. I don't have. I've got, I find it very difficult to naturally hold a key. My voice is a bit weak, all the rest of it. So I never gravitated towards melodic things to start with.
Yeah.
My whole thing was, I can be I'm very good at being neurotic. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm very good at exploiting my mental health problems. I've sort of learned to do that, and I've learned how to channel that into expression and performance. So that's kind of what I relied on. So it kind of took a bit of time to gain a bit of confidence in making something. And you can hear the progression. You can hear it from Change of Plan through to Hando. Yeah. You can actually hear me getting more comfortable with trying to be in a key or whatever. But I think Scum is an early prominent example of me trying to do it, because obviously it's still very barky. Yeah. But there is some sort of like da 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 da. You know what I mean? There's an attempt at singing there. Essentially, is what I'm saying. Yeah. Which probably at the time was a bit of an alien novelty to me.
I feel like it should be said, like, while you highlight that your voice is full of character, and it arguably has and did have the most character out of any who's in the band, and that's why it made sense that your voice would lead. And Dani from Faintest Idea, he's a shit singer too, and he's also it's a similar thing. He's got the most character, and then that's why he's the one leading it.
We're sort of neurotic people with something to say, I guess. Well, I suppose that's kind of, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. But I guess that's kind of the positive spin I would put on that, and if this is inspirational to anyone watching, is that I didn't let the fact that I couldn't sing from stop singing being a singer. Stop me being a singer. Yeah, because I was kind of, I knew I wasn't naturally good at it, but I knew I had a lot of stuff swirling around in my head that I needed to get out, and I knew how to go. You know what I mean? I've always had a good idea about how to go about that lyrically. You know what I mean? That's always, I've always known how to channel those things into a certain set of words, and I've always kind of known the rhythm and attack of how I want that sort of thing to come across. The melody just took a lot more doing it, and practice and experience. But I think you sort of start to see that a bit on Scum. But also, I don't think that now, because the other thing that gets me when I listen back to Change of Plan in general is I seem to be not as barky when I do those songs now a lot of the time. It's like I try and do them more melodically nowadays than we did on
listening
record.
back to that album, it's like you can hear the rawness so much compared to what you like now. And it's also, I mean, the fact that you can tell that we did that album in a short amount of time because, like, you listen to The Wisest Man, I'm pretty sure we recorded it in some kind of order. Like, Wisest Man was one of the last songs. I seem to remember that being one of the last songs we finished. And you can hear the strain in your voice in that. And it's great. You know, it's brilliant, it's raw, and it's what makes... It's another thing that makes that album, like people connect to it because it's got that honesty in it. But, yeah, you don't sing them quite like that. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, I think it's because as we've written and recorded more stuff, where I've become more comfortable with trying to be melodic, I've got more into that mindset. Whereas at the time, I was like, well, my strength is that I'm good at shouting. You know what I mean? I'm good at shouting at people, so I'll just push that to the nth degree, sort of thing. So, but I suspect Scum is kind of similar in that. I suspect it's kind of barkier on record than maybe I'll try and do it when we do it live now. I don't know. I might need to hear them side by side, I don't know. But yeah, on the writing front, I remember there was that idea of putting in the little break in the verses to kind of split that up a bit. And we have discussed this as well with that first chorus, which I think I've forgotten about, which was Dimmers said that should be half the length.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the way I remember it is after years of playing it, me and you went, we should have played that half length. And we said that in front of Dimmers, and he looked at us very upset. He went, I suggested that at the time. And we were like, oh.
Joe, you were right.
Sorry,
you were right.
Yeah.
That is it, because that should be half. And
God,
you know what? Every time we play that song,
every time
we get to the middle of that first chorus, I'm like, why isn't this ending now?
Yeah.
This is so wrong.
I think wrong. We should just... I don't think people would notice.
This should be the verse now. We've had, you know, let's go back into the
because it just wouldn't happen now, would it?
No, yeah, exactly.
There's no way that we would write that song with that length.
Yeah. And it's interesting. You get that across, you know, a lot. Music composition, writing songs, writing stories, writing novels, making films, all that kind of stuff, theatre. Yeah. You know, one of the things that is always taught, get the scissors out.
Yeah.
Snip it. When you're not sure, snip it.
We didn't know that.
Always err on this, you know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, not in every, there's going to be exceptions to that, not in every case. But the first thing you can do to make something better is to trim the fat off it. Yeah. And that's absolutely true of songwriting. And you're absolutely right. Nowadays, we're much more economical. Yeah. Now we can't wait for a song to be over nowadays. You know, we can't wait to get on to the next bit. But yeah, that wasn't the case for Scum.
No, I think we were still. I mean, you know, especially me and Dimmers, we listened to a lot of. You know, we were listening to Tool and stuff. You know, and you know, we were still thinking about bands before Random Hand. We were talking about who's written the longest song. You know, like we didn't kind of get that idea. It was we hadn't got our head into the idea of how shorter was. Well, not always better, but in what we were doing, like it was. So there was we hadn't had our eyes opened at that point. I don't think.
Well, I think as well, because having that influence may well be a part of it, but I think as well there's also a mentality you get when you're not as experienced in songwriting, which is where if you've got something which you think is a solid hook, then do it more. Yeah, because it's a good bit, so do it more. And you're in that mentality, rather than being like, no, do it so it's there and you have the buzz of it, and then snip it so you don't overdo it. Yeah. You know, it's arguably most of the time what you should be doing.
It'd be interesting to rehearse it with that chorus snipped down and just see how it felt.
Yes, it would.
Just to see if we got away with it.
Yeah,
I'm up for it.
We might start doing it. If you start hearing us doing that in the future, that's why it's as a result of this discussion.
Yeah.
It might be less song for your money.
Well, we can cut this bit out and we can go back and edit it.
Okay.
And not many people have got physical copies anymore, so no one would know.
Fair, yeah, they won't have a clue. Yeah,
retcon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That'd be fine. other points on songwriting, I think, I can't say this for definite, but there's basically, so that riff bit, 2/3 of the way through, which is just the main line, right?
Yeah.
I think at the time it just felt right to do that bit that goes da 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 da.
Yeah.
But there's a part of me who's thinking, did that come from Goldfinger's version of 99 Red Balloons?
I mean, I've never made the...
No, but
I've
that's the
connection.
Because when I think of doing that, that's what I...
God, fucking hell, Robin.
They do that, don't they?
We're going to cut this out.
Good God. Did they do that? I'm not saying it came directly from that, but I just I remember that being like... When I think about delay staggering, that's staggering, by the way. You've got a pan there, and you've got a margarine tub there, and you stagger it. That was just sort of the only other example which immediately comes to mind.
This is the thing, though. Like, there's going to be so many bits like, across our albums and songs that are going to have like subconsciously bits that we've taken from other stuff.
Yes.
You know, I am a magpie musically. Like I can't help I don't feel like anything I do really is original. It's just it goes through the Tilston filter, you know, and it's like
Tilfer, if you will.
Tilfer. Filts? No.
Tilfer sounds like a Dutch chocolate wafer. Tilfer?
Tilfer? Tilfer.
Guys, there's Tilfer on the right end.
Oh, I don't want another Tilfer. I'm absolute magpie musically. So, you know, I don't think, outside of Random Hand, like there's so many bits in my solo stuff that I'll listen to, and then like years later I'll be like, oh fuck, I know where that's come from, and it'll be like something in a folk song that's come from a Comeback Kid song. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like so the actual the sonically it's so different, and contextually completely different, but like actually what's going on is the same. I know I'm not the only one that does that, and I know that's kind of largely what a lot of people do. It's impossible not to. I think totally. Really. You know, obviously the mix of what Random Hand is what makes it unique. Is the fact that there is 4 individuals that have got quite different musical tastes making. I mean, not as much now, but in the original lineup, it was 4 people that really were fighting compromise. It was a big fight sonically to make it what happened, which is why I think, you know, it works and worked. But yeah, so that bit, I don't know, it could have quite easily come from that song. But there was another. Is there another bit in that song that you thought was ripped off Sonic Boom 6?
In Scum?
Yeah. Or is that something else?
No, I'm
sure I remember a bit. It might even be that bit. I'm sure I remember you having a conversation with Barney or with Neil and going, have we nicked that off you?
I can't remember anything off Scum. We might when we get into some of the later songs.
Yeah, oh well.
Something, I don't know.
But it happens. But, you know, getting to it, you know, it's like the Tenant of Rotherwood Hall felt like we were all enjoying Howard's Alias a lot at the time, to me.
Yes, there's also a very System of a Downy bit in that track.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
So, as has previously been mentioned, for me, the principal difference between Change of Plan and the albums that came later is that for the later albums, from Inhale, Exhale onwards, all of the horn lines were doubled with the trumpet.
Mm-hmm.
Because I played the trumpet before I played trombone, before I had any idea what SkaPunk was when I was at school, playing Yankee Doodle and things like that, and going to Saturday band and not practicing enough. But Scum is the one track prior to that where I was like, man, I wish there was trumpet on that as well.
Right.
I wish that was a full section doing that tune. I think that would benefit. I kind of struggle a little bit. I think I get away with it live, but I sort of struggle a little bit listening back to the recording. And I know that's what it is. That's what people are used to it. But in my head, that's a much punch. That is a section. You know what I mean?
I'll never forget the tour we did, the Ska Treck tour that we did with Grown at Home and JB Conspiracy, and then we created the Brass Council.
Yes, yeah. And
we had all the horns on stage for us for that song for most of the gigs, and it just sounded so huge, so powerful. Like getting that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, it's indulging the old longing for a horn section.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing. I think it's kind of like it's making use of. A lot of the time, like I say, I talk about that style of songwriting, and the thing is, whenever I do that style of songwriting, I think I am, as sad as it sounds, as sad and lonely as it sounds, I think I am writing for a section.
Yeah.
I'm writing as if a horn section would play those parts in all of those tunes. You know what I mean? Like I say, later when I recorded it with trumpet, it sounds much more akin to what I had in my head. I think something like Plays from Ska, like the middle trombone bit, or like more recently, like in Life Jackets, that little trombone lick, stuff like that can get away with just being a trombone. It's it's a kind of more of a peeled back kind of affair that suits it. But I think all of that upfront, fast paced, minor key, right? And I think it probably harks from the stuff like Voodoo's. You know what I mean? And Bang Geek Mafia, in my opinion, is like the ultimate album for that sort of stuff. I think it's incredible. I think the horns on that are out of this world. I think that is that is the go-to manual for writing that kind of thing, with a full section. And I think, in my head, that sort of stuff is a section, and sort of Scum is very similar to that. It's one of the reasons why I'm so intrigued by, or was always so enamoured by and intrigued by Cap Down, because Jake seemed to completely get away with that on his own. Do you know what I mean? Probably through the choice of instruments. To just have
I think it's the instrument, isn't it?
Yeah, to have the alto sax cutting through everything and doing the sort of the little, note bend noodle and all that kind of thing. And in those tunes, it works and it works on record with just the sax. It sounds fantastic on record with just the sax. Whereas I always felt like that sort of thing was a massive influence on me, but I always felt, I don't know if this is working as well with just a tenor trombone. I don't know if it's not.
Because most of King Prawn was was it cornet?
Cornet.
It was just a cornet. So what's your feeling on that then?
Well, here's the thing. Yes, cornet, but I know they doubled a lot on record. I know they had people like, I'm pretty sure Matt Dowse plays.
Was he on the older records as well?
He was on some of the records. He was in at least one that I can't remember if he's on Surrender or Got the First, but he crops up there somewhere, and I know there are some guest players.
Jake plays on one of them, doesn't he?
Yeah, Jake. And it's so cool because you can tell it's Jake.
Yeah.
There's a thing in jazz whereby loads of the sort of the seminal jazz guys strive to have like a distinctive sound just by how they play the hot. You know what I mean? So the idea is you can just hear like Miles Davis or John Coltrane or whatever play, and you can tell by the style of playing. Yeah. And Jake's the only guy in punk with a horn that I can think of who can do that. You know what I mean? It's like you get that sort of like bendy noodle, and you're instantly like, on that KP record, you can totally tell when it's him cropping up. It's very cool. But I think there are some other players who join in. But again, it depends on the style of writing. So, No Peace, for example, great sounding as a horn section. To my ear, it's doubled on the record.
It's definitely more than
it's more than just the cornet. Whereas Dominant View, perfect, just the cornet.
Yeah.
Because you're not after the punch, you're after the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And you can get away with that with just the cornet, and it sits over the top of that beautifully. You know what I mean? And that with our stuff, some of it works with just the bone on its own, but some of that stuff, I think to fully realise what it's meant to be, needs the extra punch. You know what I mean? It needs the extra. The extra registers in there, and obviously you get a punch with trumpet that you don't get with trombone. You know what I mean? You can be a lot more precise on the attack because it's keys. You're not sort of bleeding into it that way. Trombone's a warmer tone, so you don't get the sort of the same hammer that you do. Listen to me just completely destroying my own work. It's awful. No, but no, but I think it's just that whole thing of like, something sounds a certain way in your head. And then you bring it out into the real world, and it mixes with oxygen and oxidizes, and it's not quite the thing you had. And I'm still proud of it, and it's still great. But having gone round the houses, getting back to the point, Scum is the example of the thing pre-adding the extra horns, where I'm like, I wish, you know what I mean? Yeah. I wish I could put some extra horns on that.
Yeah.
I just think, which actually I got to do when I did that re-recording with Sarah.
Yeah.
So my partner, who was a sound engineer, had to do a recording project and did re-recorded Scum Triumphant, and I was kind of jumped on the opportunity to get some trumpet on it.
I would like to hear that.
Yes, it's good. She's very good.
It'd be nice to put it out there in some respect. Just memories coming back of performing that song.
Yeah,
I'll never forget. It was probably about 7 months in. I think Dan joined. It was like beginning of the summer, and it would probably been the next May when we did Slam Dunk, and we were playing Scum Triumphant, and it was like one of the best gigs ever. It was like massive crowd, everyone going absolutely crazy, huge circle pits. Like the vibe was unreal. Like it was totally going off. And like we were all just properly getting in the moment, and it was just that moment, like Dan's first big festival, one of Dan's first big festivals with us, and it just cuts to him doing the da 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 da, and he just totally fluffs the bit. I don't know what he did. He just like missed the guitar, or just forgot, or just played the wrong note, or something. Just that bit that was just guitar and completely messed it up, and everyone just falled over laughing. And there's obviously loads of our friends at the side of the stage that just like, he was just mortified.
For the record, Dan is the most consistent player in Random Hand,
absolutely,
which is what makes that extra funny, because Dan is the guy who's tight.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he would have. I'm sure that would have cut deep on that one. He's a man who prides himself on good craft. But God, I mean, bloody hell, if I had a penny for every fluff that I did. But I guess the issue with that bit is it's very exposed, isn't it?
Yeah. It's time to shine.
I was going to say, I'm sure there's been many times we played that live, because obviously it starts with just a bone. I'm sure there's many times where I've gone to play it and just totally split that first note.
Yes.
A million times. So a little side note into the exciting world of brass instruments, which I'm sure you're all very eager to get into, which is why you're here. You're here for the brass. Who isn't? So there are two ways that you make notes on a brass instrument. You change the length of the pipe, which on most instruments is done by depressing keys, or on the trombone is done by moving the slide. And you also change what is referred to as your embouchure. You're yawning through this. This is important brass talk.
Brass talk.
Brass tacks. It's going to pop up. Your embouchure, which is how you blow into the instrument. And basically by loosening and tightening your lips, you get different notes as well. So if you're on first position on a trombone, you get several notes just out of first position, just by how tight your lips are. Same with a trumpet, you press the first key, several notes, second key, several notes. And you do a combination of that and jumping between the lips. So basically what that means is if you go to attack a note and you're not quite there with your lips, you split it, which is where you end up in a weird sludgy, parpy, no man's land in between two notes, effectively. And it's very obvious if you're the only horn in the band and you do that, and it's the start of one of your biggest songs.
All eyes on you.
And you go,
and you've made everyone be quiet.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Everyone be quiet. This is my moment. Was it an F? Was it a B flat? Was it a buff? Was it a buff flat? Buff. This note is in the key of buff flat. That's how I get away with it. So pick a note and play that note would be my advice. Yeah, because I don't always do that.
No, but it's part of the excitement.
It is part of the excitement.
Yeah.
It's part of the fun. It's always, I've always enjoyed playing this live. And once it got a lot of traction, and once it became sort of an established tune that we did, it's you can milk the intro a bit. Or it's a good one for just sort of kicking in out of nowhere, really. You know what I mean? It's always been quite fun for that. But it's always been, like you were saying, we haven't always played it live, have we? But it sort of feels like it's been obvious.
It is there 99% of the time. But I think it's the first one to go out of Anthro, Play Some and Scum. I think Scum mostly goes first, unless we've got a sampler issue. Yeah. Because Anthro, if we haven't got a sampler for whatever reason, Play Some will stay, but which is normally if we've flown somewhere. Yeah, so Play Some will stay and Anthro will drop. But Scum gets dropped if we've got a short set on occasion.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's got that iconic intro, hasn't it? Which is kind of a big part of...
A note on the recording that I remember is, just going back to sort of things we'd do differently, is I don't know why I insisted on putting that extra horn bit at the end on the record. There's a horn overlay on the last chorus.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, we should put on this and it'd be great.
Okay.
And I'm like, that wasn't necessary at all. It really wasn't.
Not able to do anything about it now.
No, it's there now, isn't it? Should we
Yeah.
just re-record and put it out
We
again? Pretend it never happened. Yeah. Yeah. That was the whole thing.
I always like how you always make a point of pointing at the door about where the van would be.
Yeah, but the CD is in our van.
Yeah.
To the point where if we'd flown somewhere abroad, I'd even try and point towards the UK.
Really?
Knowing that's where the van was.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I took it seriously, man.
That's amazing.
You've got to do something for yourself when you've played a song 1,000 times. You know what I mean? You've got to do something to keep yourself
This
entertained.
is the thing about this song. Like, I totally zone out when we played it. Totally go out. And like, there'll be times when I'm just suddenly like, I make more mistakes in Scum Triumphant than any other song that we play.
Right.
Like I'll get to a point, I'll be like, oh, you idiot, you've thought about the song. And like muscle memory was going to get me through this.
Yeah.
Like, what is it? I don't know. So it's just, I don't know what it is about that song. Like because we've played it so much, I go to places and I make mistakes.
Well, like I say, I guess if it's that embedded and you're relying on that, you know, it's kind of an easy thing to do.
Probably should pay more attention.
Well, that's
But you're right. You need a little bit of time for you.
Exactly. But so I always like to throw in those little tidbits and stuff like that. There's of course a reference to Mikey from Harijan, who we played a lot with back in the early days, and there was always a sort of there was a quality in Mikey's voice which was very earthy and completely devoid of any sort of pretension or anything like that. You know what I mean? It was a very like down to earth vocal style that he had, very gritty. And I remember always being quite taken with that. And the sort of concept of that was trying to sort of encapsulated a lot of the vibe of what I was trying to get at with the content of the song. So having the reference to Mikey's voice and Mikey singing there was a I can't remember. I don't know if I've ever told him that.
It's the song.
He's
he knows.
Oh, is he aware?
Yeah,
Okay,
right. I've definitely told him.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's certainly very much meant as like a sort of homage to that kind of vibe.
I'd love Harijan. You know, it was because there was that time when they came up at a really similar time, didn't they? And we were very much kind of bosom buddies of that period. And then I think lineup issues and a few other things just stopped them from kind of taking a trajectory out of Manchester, whereas we just got on with it. And I always felt it was a real shame that they didn't kind of keep it going and keep at it to a similar level that we did at that time. I get why though. Bands are hard. I mean, and it's a miracle that we got. You know, it's only now I realise really how lucky we had it. That we had 4 people that were just on the same page at the same time to make that happen. Like it's actually really difficult. You know, really hard to make that happen. You know, with the pressures of life and stuff.
Well, there might have been a bit of as we are sat in the Keighley fridge, might have been a bit of like, well, nothing better to do in Keighley.
Yeah.
Might as well go.
But any one of us could have chosen to put ourselves first and like gone, oh no, I really need to get a career, I need to get some money, you know, and none of us did, you know, like we put a faith in it, and I can understand why other bands didn't. But you know, the fact that Harijan were there with us when we started doing those gigs, playing our first gig in Manchester with them coming to play in Bradford loads and doing that kind of stuff, and then they only put their first album out a few years ago. You know, but it's like that album they put out is beautiful. It's so good, and it's so like it means so much to me that album kind of came full circle and is finally out, and they're now a band and they're still doing it and they're back at it and they write the next album. So I'm very pleased that band still exists and that they've kind of made that work.
It's a very distinctive vibe they've got. You know what I mean? They've got something. They've got a very unique sound to them. and they're just proper. You find this with a lot of. I don't want to get into like cultural stereotypes, but I find this with a lot of Mancunian bands. There's just a sort of. It's just like a sort of like down to earth vibe about so many of those bands. You know what I mean? They're sort of very like no bullshit kind of straight talking kind of thing going on. You know. But it was kind of, like I say, I mean, just what they were doing just totally encapsulates a lot of what I was trying to get across.
Yeah.
You know, in the lyrics of Scum, so it just made sense to make reference to that at the time. I remember, was it a few years back? There was an American band got in touch because they wanted to cover it, and they were asking what UCAS points were.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, you got in touch with me. You said like, can you? There was some band and like you got in touch on the band email and we're like, we're trying.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
that
no. So I remember you saying like this band want to cover Scum Triumphant, but they don't know what these references are.
Right.
So they just want to know exactly what it is they're singing.
Right. I have not even a tingle of memory of that one.
No, yeah, that was a thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
There you go. I don't know what came of that.
That's a shame. Would like to.
I don't recall.
Yeah, I can't remember even to
saying.
Well, on that note,
which is flat. On that note,
let's call that a wrap. Well, there we have it. That was Scum Triumphant, and I hope you enjoyed listening to us go over that and pick it apart. We certainly did. I think it's worth pointing out that since recording that episode, myself and Robin have talked about a few things, and it's entirely possible that some of the timelines are a little off. I think Robin might have actually been in the centre from our second gig, which was a gig we did at the Victoria Hall in Keighley, which is like our first proper gig that was out, wasn't a party. And it's entirely possible there was a gig at Abraham's in Huddersfield before the Rocket. To be fair, there could have been 6 gigs for all I know, but I'm pretty sure the timeline's quite close. I'll try and keep on top of corrections in these end bits because obviously in the moment these things, they're coming up for the first time in like 10 years and then we're talking about it and then we're kind of like, oh, is that what happened? I don't know. So we will do our best to keep you as informed as possible. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that as much as we did. We've got another one coming next week. We look at 2 songs in the next episode. We go into Milk and Snakes and Ladders. I hope you're looking forward to it. We shall see you then. Goodbye.